Drivers is so hard as you keep, it's hard enough to get a driver, not to mention you get a good group of a pool that's your substitutes.
Yeah,
So it is-
I just wanted to make that clear for the public.
It's not a unique situation.
It's not
Yes.
unique.
Morris County Ed Services has seen, because they negotiate
Correct, yep,
as high as 50%
right.
increase.
We call, yeah.
It's
And they've
nationwide.
encouraged their districts to look into subscription busing.
Yeah, right, to fill
Really,
the seats,
to
offset
handle,
some
yep.
cost, yep.
So,
Okay. Tom?
Nothing to report at this time, thank you.
Okay. Alex?
Thank you. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. But the Building and Grounds Committee met on Friday, I think that was the 8th, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
That is correct.
We had a very comprehensive report provided by Mr. Persina. This is his busiest time of year, and things are cranking. And I know that Dan is working very hard with him as well. So there are window repairs that are ongoing, where balances and locking hardware are being received and installed into our windows. HVAC was, I think, mostly a success story. We had a minimal amount of complaints as we were ending the school year. And we've begun implementing a preventative maintenance plan, which is underway. I believe that's in conjunction with the new supervisor, new staff that we're getting from Pritchard. There are plumbing repairs that are going on underway. Now, this is one item that I was incredibly impressed. I didn't tell him at the time, but there's a project where we're replacing valves and the linking unions in certain areas of the building where there's bimetallic interaction. And I know this because I've litigated certain cases like this, but when you have two different type of metals in a plumbing environment, there's a high probability of failure from corrosion of the metals that interplay with each other. I was not good at chemistry, but that's essentially what's happening. And this is just like another example of someone who's very seasoned, very knowledgeable, can spot these issues, can avoid a major water loss incident by understanding the interplay between these two potential metal connectors, and anticipates that by, a relatively cost effective replacement or repair of these units. So something like that could lead to a multi-$100,000 water loss if you have, undetected corrosion that leads to a discharge of water and an insurance claim, but that's something that is being proactively undertaken, which I have to give credit where credit is due. That's a really remarkable observation and initiative. So in addition to that, there's a tree pruning and removal. There's ongoing stuff going on there. A demolished and will be soon replacing sheds, I believe, at Millington and Central, two different, or just one shed?
Millington and Gillette.
Millington and Gillette, sorry. There's a co-op pricing rate agreement that was entered into with the locksmiths. So that is kind of like an ongoing effort to standardize, I believe, the keys and locks that are available to staff. Gym floors and stage floors at all 3 schools will soon begin, if it hasn't
August,
already. All right, August. Matt already spoke about the relighting project that is underway, and from what I understand, all the materials are coming in gradually, and things are being implemented one school at a time. The playground and gym equipment, Gillette and Millington has already been evaluated. Central is going to be done this week, and there's an installation of swing mats that are coming in. We discussed the baseball and softball fields that we're going to start collecting estimates for reevaluating the composition of the soil.
Correct.
And also the grading of those. These are huge investments and a lot of money that needs to be spent on those if we're going to do that, but that's kind of down the road. But just obtaining estimates related to just the analysis of where we're at with those. Millington fire alarm upgrades are underway. The equipment is coming in and being installed, and it should be completed by the second week of August because we have a CO that needs to be issued by a town official who's going to go on vacation in the last 2 weeks of August, so we're underway. And, that's a very high priority to make sure that that gets done on time. There was a slight hiccup that was anticipated with the laboratory repair projects. I believe these are their staff laboratories that are being renovated, where some asbestos was detected, but it wasn't, it was abated. All they needed to do was wrap it. There wasn't a big remediation that was needed. So we're more than halfway completed with brick exterior repairs that are ongoing, and I believe we're waiting for capstones to come in August. The inartfully named gaping hole project has been completed.
The gaping hole, that's a daily joke,
Sorry
a
for
daily
that.
joke.
No,
in
he
our
threw
office.
that at me,
Yes,
too.
the gaping hole, yes.
So always be reminded to be very careful with your word selection, Alex. Fence repairs that are happening at Gillette, especially related to the area where there's the dumpster, I think the garbage
Yep.
collection area. We're gonna rename these sheds after after Dan and Mark, I think. Oh, geez,
Well deserved.
we're gonna have a naming ceremony.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
very proud of his sheds. Has big plans
With
for 'em.
electric.
But again, another really thoughtful approach to making investments in our district where he wants to get electric run to these. Resolution number 18 on the agenda for today is gonna be the Millington front area. It's gonna be a repaving of that driveway area where the bus comes in, and work on the curb and sidewalks. But before we do that, he wants to run a conduit through there to make sure that there's enough electric supply for the sign that's at the front of the school, but also in the event that you want to run
future.
communication wires or something like that. It perfectly common sense and forward-thinking work that's being done. We're still working on the 5-year capital improvement plan. We're leaning on the architects to provide more useful and structured plan for us, and we hope to get that in the next couple weeks. I think I captured most of what was talked about, but it was a very comprehensive report that was provided. My credit to the hard work that Dan and Mark are doing for us, and of course supported by Dr. Mucci. And we have another meeting scheduled for July 29th before we've allowed reluctantly Mr. Persina to take a vacation with his family. Sure.
What about the side parking lot in Millington?
Yes, that's getting done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. if I
As you
missed
walk in, you go, as you pull in, you go all the way straight back to the ball field, that's all new block,
That's-
yes, all getting done.
And the
All
circle
block,
behind it
Belgian
too?
block. Around the back around the back of the school, that I don't know.
I think it's really just the
Yeah,
side
the
that I
side.
noticed.
Just
Side.
the
most.
surface of the moon is gonna be taken care of.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Good.
And in the front, what he's actually doing, right, is widening
Correct.
where the buses come through.
It'll be pushed
Better
closer to the side,
clearance.
12 feet closer to the sidewalk. He's brought the plans over to the town, so that seems to be okay. That we have this sign outside, because they want to drive by and look out the sign to see if that's going to be okay. So we're getting a lot of approvals from the town to make sure we're in compliance.
One thing you did not notice, Alex, is that Mark is loving this part of the job. He's like, I'm heaven, this is exactly what I wanted.
He loves the summer projects.
He
I mean,
does.
he's just like, he's so excited. He's
So
amazing.
one thing that I have on my notes to speak to Kim and to Dr. Mucci about, but our hope is to have Building and Grounds do a presentation for us at a board
He
meeting
said that,
in the
yeah.
next couple months,
He told me today.
so that everyone can see firsthand, a lot of the work that's being done. And really, credit to the whole administrative team for doing all this work. We are just kind of participating in the conversation and overseeing all the initiative and all the hard work that's being done by you guys. So thank you.
Any other questions for Alex? Thank you. Melissa?
No report.
Okay. Katie?
The Community Relations Committee decided to hold our next meeting on August, I think it was August 2nd. Yeah, August 2nd. But we did have a robust conversation via email, and it informed how we discussed at the board retreat, in light of things that happened in the world, in our country and locally, to, you know, make sure that we as a board and as a district, are mindful and supportive of, people of various races, religions, LGBTQ, physical differences, learning differences, and just make sure that we are promoting inclusivity and acceptance and support to those communities. So that was something that we discussed, and we discussed it at length in our meeting today. Also, for the Long Hill Education Foundation, aka FORCE, classes are being formed right now, and so they're being created right now. Sign-ups will begin in the fall, and the classes will start in October. One note, it hasn't been put up for the board, but we just put under contract a speaker who will be coming in November for Central School, and his name is David Flood, and he is about, he promotes respect of others, and I think it's really timely, you know, finding support in your community and being a member of the community, and I think it'll be really a wonderful experience for, it's gonna be for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and it'll be in November. So stay tuned for that, and also, we are planning a fundraiser for the end of September. It's going to be a movie night, and it's going to be held hopefully at Central. And more information will be coming out on that. So it should be a fun time to bring the family out and watch a movie. So that is all for now. Thank you.
Any questions for Katie? Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Good evening. We hope everybody is enjoying their summer so far. All of our summer programs began on Monday, June 27th, and the students are doing exceptionally well, and the attendance has been very strong. Several districts were unable to fully staff their summer programs, and others needed to look outside their own district pool of employees for educators to lead these important summer programs. I want to take a moment to express our gratitude to our faculty for once again placing our students first and putting their summer plans on hold so that they could ensure the continuity and quality of instruction for all our learners. They're doing an amazing job. Thank you to the board for the outstanding work in committees and noted in all of our robust committee reports. Thank you also for participating thoughtfully in the board goal-setting retreat. We have a lot of exciting work ahead of us as we refine the goals that we came up with this evening. Tonight on the agenda, you will note that we have 2 resignations in the music department. We wish these individuals well as they relocate to new positions in education. You'll also note on the agenda that we have already filled one of the positions with an outstanding candidate. We expect the second position will be filled in the coming days. With the exception of 2 short-term leave replacements and 2 paraprofessional positions, we are fully staffed for the coming school year, and we continue to enjoy a really strong applicant pool for every open position that we have. Also, it was great to note that the replacement, that position that we have with the guidance department comes with an extensive theater background. So we're really excited to capitalize on that for our theater productions. Our current enrollment for the upcoming school year is stable with no unexpected spikes in enrollment. As previously reported, we were unable to accommodate about 2 sections of preschool. We had a significant waiting list for preschool that we didn't have the space to accommodate. We will have 3 pre-K sections in the coming year and 5 sections at every other grade level. Our average class size will be 13 in pre-K, 16 in kindergarten, and 19 in grades 1 to 8. Want to just take a moment and thank the board for the increased positions. We know that the teacher is the defining factor for student success in the classroom, and that is followed by the second item that indicates student success, which is class size. So the board's commitment to support additional staffing at some sections has allowed us to keep those 5 sections and keep the class sizes incredibly manageable. So kudos to the board on that. We have 844 total students enrolled, and by grade level, the breakdown is 40 in pre-K, 74 in kindergarten, 83, wait a minute, is that 83 or 93 in first, 92 in second, 82 in third, 93 in fourth, 89 in fifth, 97 in sixth, 87 in seventh, and 92 in eighth. So it's a fairly even across all the grade levels, and the class sizes should be extremely well managed in the coming year. Morris County remains high in COVID activity level, while our surrounding counties are in medium level of activity. Hopefully, the cases in the area will go down in the coming weeks. We received updated guidance from the New Jersey Department of Health regarding managing the COVID pandemic. Of note, they have relaxed the individual contact tracing requirements. In favor, they are asking us to provide a holistic approach to districts just monitoring when there's outbreaks and keeping a strong communication with the public, indicating when a particular school or a grade level is outbreak, instead of going through a series of long questions for every single case that are part of the contact tracing, and just giving general information about the numbers. They advise that when we are in outbreak and those situations arise, that we use layered mitigation effort, cleaning, reminders to deep cleaning as opposed to the regular daily cleaning, reminders about respiratory etiquette, taking more breaks for hand washing, all of those things that can assist in slowing the spread of the disease. The New Jersey Department of Health has also indicated that weekly testing for non-vaccinated staff and those individuals who opt into testing will continue through at least the late fall. Districts have been encouraged to use periodic times to update families regarding the number of active cases in the district. None of the new guidance that came out on July 6th will be problematic for us in any way. This is pretty much what we've been following. We have our COVID dashboard up and running. We have a system in place when we have a case or a classroom where there's multiple classes or multiple cases, that classroom is vacated, deep cleaned, the ventilation system improvements. So we're in fine shape as we continue to move through, and that's all in large part due to the meticulous work of our District Health and Safety Committee. We look forward to a busy and productive rest of summer, and we are confident that our students and families will be impressed with the facilities and improvements that we've been working on. And as Mr. DeJamos mentioned, Mr. Persina will join us for a board meeting after schools open to share with the board a detailed presentation with before and after pictures of all of the upgrades that we've been discussing at our meetings. So thank you for your continued support.
Can I just ask, do you anticipate, like, sometimes in the summer you get more kindergartners? Do you have any idea? I mean,
It's a great question. The question, that Ms. Nyquist asked was, with kindergarten at 74, do we anticipate that in the coming weeks we're going to have a spike in enrollment? I'll update the board again formally in August and let them know. I feel like our canvas for kindergarten registration has been fairly far-reaching, so I don't anticipate that. The number of active houses on the market in Long Hill don't indicate that we would see a spike if houses were to close. You can usually tell by the number of houses on the market and make some reasoned decision about how that's going to affect schools, and we don't see that number as too high. So I think we're in stable shape. We're up about 20 students from 20-ish? No?
No,
Less,
yeah.
down.
Well, no, 838 I think we had.
Yeah, so it's like 10
Yes.
students up from last year, so consistent.
Any other questions? Okay.
Did you want those numbers,
Dan?
Karen?
Good evening. On tonight's agenda, a lot of the items have been discussed. We have our bills for the month of June, our financial reports for the month of May. We also have our annual allotments of state and federal programs, which is consistent with our anticipated projections. We have an interest payment on our debt service, which is reduced since we refinanced. Approval of 4 parental contracts for transportation. As Mr. DeJamo stated, a Millington award of a contract for the paving as well as sidewalk and curbing. Award of a contract with Watchung Hills, and that's for 5 routes with a 38% increase. I'd like to thank Tim Stiles for doing a lot of work in that. They're the host district. We just partnered with them for this transportation, and we've been up there a couple of times, have great, healthy conversations, and we're confident that we can improve on what has happened in the past year. We are awarding our auditor and our treasurer of school monies, which is just general housekeeping. And our treasurer of school monies has been with the district 8 years, so it just has never been on an agenda. We are awarding a finance agreement for the lighting, which is 5 years interest-free, and that's just a flat payment to pay for the lights over time. We anticipate that the savings from the lighting, we should net approximately $800 to $1,200 per month for the 60 months. So over the life of the contract, we should be probably 40 to 60K to the good. After we pay for the lights, pay the bank, we should have a surplus. Just a quick side note, school supplies are up 10 to 12%, natural gas is up 14%, transportation to transport our students is up 38%, transportation for special ed is over 40%. I can't believe I'm saying this. Health benefits is only up 7%, which is our largest number that we pay for. Liability insurance is up 12%. What we've done as a team uniquely is we utilized our COVID money to do a lot of improvement. We didn't use it for staffing, we used it for non-reoccurring expense, and that's how we're able to do a lot of the things we are doing. And if you say, wow, you still generated $1.5 million in surplus, well, we spent $800,000 of COVID money. So if we didn't receive the COVID money, we would have only wound up generating about $700K. So I'm not in my philosophy is not to hoard to say, oh, I have a 1.5. 1 or 2 or 3%, 600,000, 700,000 should be your sweet spot to roll over from year to year. But we were very good collectively as a team on how we wanted to spend all those dollars. That's why we're seeing the improvements to the parking lots, the improvements to the HVAC, the sheds. A lot of these things are indirectly being funded through COVID. We're spending the COVID money in other areas to free up other monies that we could do these type of projects. So it's been well thought out. We're in very, very good shape. And we're looking forward, to provide continue our journey to provide a healthy and safe school environment for all our students and staff. So I know Mark's very happy. This is his, time of the year, so I don't even bother with him until Labor Day. Just provide the money and he'll get it done. Thank you.
You must have really, done a lot of heavy-duty forecasting to really handle those increases that you cited.
Well,
And that
the
was
fortunate
really-
thing is, we've allocated for a lot of it. Health benefits is our biggest budget line, and we had a couple extra dollars in there because it renews so early, it renews later than our budget. So we were fortunate that it only came in at 7, so I'm breathing a little sigh of relief because we had
Okay.
11 or 12 there on a large number.
Okay.
So that should, generate us some dollars to spread to liability, school supplies, transportation, special ed transportation.
Your increase next year will be much more. You'll probably be at the 12 and 13%.
Yeah, well,
They're a little lagging right now, the insurance companies.
Thank you.
That's no problem.
Not at my company, but maybe for the school district, because I just got my numbers, so. Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Dan. Any comments from the public on agenda items? The chief stands alone, okay. Okay, resolutions, minutes number 1. Katie, will you move those in?
So moved.
Second?
Any questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Daly?
Here. Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mr. DeGiorgio?
Abstain.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Ruvalo?
Abstain?
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Melissa, will you move in financials items number 2 through 25?
So moved?
Second.
Questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mr. DeGiorgio?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Ruvalo?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Alex, will you move in special services items 26 through 31?
So moved.
Second, third,
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mr. DeGiorgio?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Ruvalo?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Personnel, Tom, will you move in items 32 through 43?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mr. DeGiorgio?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Ruvalo?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes.
I need to backtrack and abstain from 43.
Yeah, you should.
I did.
Got it.
I was looking for that. I'm like, where is it? I know it's here somewhere. I figured I could always go back and abstain.
Got it.
Okay, policy items number 44 through 48. Danielle, will you move those in, please?
So moved.
Second,
Well, it has to be an amendment. We're pulling 6171.3. Because we're gonna
Okay.
work the wording
That's omitted.
for
We're-
today.
Yep.
Okay, so amending number 47 to remove 6171.3?
Mm-hmm.
And everything else is okay? Okay, so Danielle, will you move those in with that revision?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call?
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mr. DeGiorgio?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
And Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Ruvalo?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Other, items number 49 through 51. Karen, will you move those in?
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
Yes.
Wait, I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Go ahead. I know this sounds stupid, and I should have run into this. I don't understand, like, hiring agent.
Oh, sorry. That just
49.
means that, let's say we have a wonderful candidate and we want to offer them a promise of employment letter. I would call a couple of members of the board, namely the Personnel Committee, negotiations, let them know what the intention is, so that we could offer this person a promise of employment so that they could feel confident resigning from their existing position, knowing that they're going to be approved. So I'd probably start with the Personnel Committee and send all of the materials to the rest of the board, give them a day or so that I have the authorization to offer a position without the board meeting. So it's between now and August 8th.
Gotcha.
So for those one or two positions that are hanging out, the person's in another district, we don't want to lose them. We don't make them wait until August 9th to resign, because then that would put their start date out till October 9th if
Right.
their other district doesn't release them. That a fair summary, Dan?
Perfect.
Okay, Tom. do you
And
have a
then I
question?
just wanted to say that the code of governance and together with the pledge is going to be put up on the website,
Okay,
just so that people know.
If everyone could just sign them after they vote and pass them to the right.
Unsurprisingly, I have questions about number 50, the code of conduct and the pledge. Since this is the first actual reading by the board, shouldn't there be a first and second reading of it? Or if we would just pass it flat out?
No, well, you had it ahead of time,
I got it Wednesday.
yeah, to read
Yeah,
it, and if you had any,
I have comments and changes on it.
I never heard anything.
No, I thought, by the time I got finished reading it and writing it up, I thought I would bring it here. I've given you comments throughout the
Oh,
year.
well, yes, I did receive a couple of comments from you. I'd say two, and I believe adjustments were made. So in terms of anything else, I did not hear anything else. And, well, we can either do this, we could do one of two things. Well, first, let me open up to the rest of the board. Does anybody else have any comments regarding the code of governance? Okay.
I'm not done with my comments on that.
No, I understand that. I want to just,
Wanna make sure there's no
so now what I'm,
Guys, please.
so this is what I'm going to suggest, is that we have, well, I shouldn't say that, because, I mean, we have the signature sheets, but if there are changes that go on, how many comments are we talking? Was it like 5? I mean, go through them?
The two parts of this code of governance really should be bifurcated. One's a pledge and one's a code.
Right.
It should be bifurcated. The pledge is separate from the code. Get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's two different styles. One, there's board is capitalized, the other one, board is not. The first letter in the bullet is capitalized in one form and it's not in the other. They're not, it was written by two different authors, it looks like. It doesn't look like one document. If it's bifurcated, it doesn't really matter if they don't match. But the styles don't agree. And there were some other questions that,
Well, in terms of it being identified as separate, you see it identified as separate because it says governance pledge, and one is code of governance. So that problem, it is bifurcated.
okay, well, no, it's not. It's one document. Is that not true?
Because of the
You're
way,
putting them
right,
together, one's a
the way
pledge.
the resolution is worded, right, all we have to do is just add pledge.
Right. And the other comment that I have about this document, or two documents, is that much of it comes from Robert's Rules of Order. For $7, you can get a little cheat sheet from Robert's Rules. I've used it plenty of times. Gives you a good insight to what's going on. There's, we all signed when we became board members through New Jersey, Code of Ethics for the school board. We've all done this, so most of this is redundant. And you're asking us to sign into another document that there's no need to it. Why should we put our names to another document to be used as a hammer if somebody, God forbid, sends the wrong email to the wrong person or whatever it could be? And I don't know the purpose of this code of conduct.
Well,
The first part of it as a guideline, love it. The second part of holding all of our feet to the fire, when we've all been adults, nobody's been disagreeable. I have disagreed publicly with, for obvious reasons, my reasons for the budget, and got excoriated for that, but that's okay. I just don't see giving another hammer to be hit with.
Okay. So if you have Robert's rules, we're in the middle of a vote on it. There was questions to be asked. Karen, it's your resolution. If you want to rescind, if you want to pull it back and you want to allow for till the next board meeting to have a vote, if you want to receive Tom's comments and any other board members' comments, you're welcome to do that. I feel like you've given opportunity for people to do that, and Tom has the ability to vote no. So what would you like to do?
well, I just want to make a statement that I totally agree with Tom in terms of replicating some things that have already been put down in black and white in other areas. This kind of puts it together. And I guess when we discussed it, when I say we, the governance committee and other people that looked at it, what it really is, it just identifies how we operate. And now we are committing and showing to the public, this is the kind of act, this is how we act. I mean, they see something here, but they don't see what goes on in committees. It tells us about how we handle before a meeting, how we talk after a meeting, how we communicate with each other. And very honestly, like I said, it's no more than the way we operate. And this is really for, well, yes, we're signing up, so to speak. We're putting our feet to the fire and we're saying, yes, this is the way we operate and I'm gonna keep operating like this because this is the way we should operate. And we're letting the public know that. Now, what I would like to say is, I would still like to go ahead and have the code of governance, because since it's something that we already do, I don't think it's such a big deal to do it, to sign it and to have this, and it's, like I said, go up on the website, everybody could look at it. To satisfy Tom's concerns, you can, I don't know if this can be done. He can vote no to this particular version. And let's say if it's adjusted, then we go back and have everybody else re-vote again, or no? I don't know. What's the easiest thing to do?
I mean,
Pull it?
if it's something that's substantive, we'd have to probably re-vote. If it's capitalization and things like that and grammatics that are non-substantive, we could just replace the old with the new.
Yeah.
Like that, so we'd have to see what the changes are before we can make a determination on how we could operate.
Okay, so let's do that. We're gonna take we'll take the vote. Tom can vote no, and we'll go on. I'll get your comments and your concerns and questions, and we'll take it from there.
If you'd like,
Super.
if you did split them, I would be glad to vote yes on the first part. But,
What would be the purpose of splitting them? I'm sorry.
well, it's two different documents, really. One's a general operating guidelines, which we're already running by, and the other one's a governance pledge. You're signing a pledge. I generally try not to get into contracts that I don't have to, and this is a contract. The pledge is a contract. I mean, if any board member feels that another board member has violated any provision of this agreement, that board member should seek guidance of the board president, and so on and so on. It's talking about punitive. Why are we talking about being punitive?
Do you have a motion?
I move to, what can I move?
What would you like, whatever you would like, Tom. You said bifurcate, so.
I would like to bifurcate these two documents, so
Okay.
that we have the general operating guidelines separate from the governance pledge.
Do anybody have a second?
I can second that.
Okay. Can I do a voice vote? Dan?
Sure, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, put your hands up. Do a hand
Aye.
vote. Okay. So we're going to redo this where it says resolved. Number 50, resolved that the Long Hill Township Board of Education adopts the Code of Governance as attached, and do 50A.
And a 50B,
Right.
or 50 or 50.
Excuse me, adopts the Code of Governance as attached, period, and then 50A is adopts the governance
Governance pledge.
Right.
Okay? All right, so we're just going to vote down the line and just be aware that there's a 50 and a 50A, just as we said. Okay, roll call.
I'm so sorry, clarification.
Yes.
Are we voting on 50A first and then 50B? Or are we voting,
There's
We're
only a
vote-
50 and a 50A.
Right,
50
50
is the Code of Governance that's been bifurcated between a Code of Governance and the pledge, which is now 50A.
Correct. There's
And
a
the pledge
50
is
and a
what's
50A.
signed.
The pledge is
we're
50A.
doing two votes?
Two votes,
Yes.
correct.
Got it.
Well,
Okay.
actually, now it's 5, right? Because we didn't do 49.
Right, we gotta do, we should do 49 and 51 separately. Let's get those off the table, and then we'll vote on 50 and 58.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's go for a roll call for 49 and 51.
Correct, and that was moved by Karen, seconded by Matt.
Okay, yep.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mr. DeGiorgio?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Ruvalo?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes,
All right, now we're on to number 50, which is,
okay, yep, 50, which is the Code of Governance. Page numbers, what is, okay, the first 2 pages.
right, the first 2 pages.
Katie, will you move
So moved.
a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mr. DeGiorgio?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
This is just on 50, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Then yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Ruvalo?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes, okay. Melissa, will you move in 50A, which is adopting the governance pledge?
Yes. So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos? Mr. DeGiorgio?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
No.
Ms. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist,
Yes.
Ms. Ruvalo,
Yes.
Mrs. Case.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Items for discussion, any old business? Any new business?
Yes. And I was following the code of conduct to, and I emailed you earlier about this. I was wondering if it is possible at all, even if it's a preliminary or a draft, to get the agendas prior to Friday afternoon before a weekend for a Monday evening meeting. I know I read Friday night, you got some emails, Sunday evening, Monday all day today. I'm not giving up my weekends with my family, sorry. If we can get it maybe even Thursday, it doesn't have to be complete. Maybe Dan's numbers aren't ready yet, or maybe they are. Maybe policy isn't ready yet, probably is, whatever. If we can get that moved up earlier, and the other part about policy, which is a separate item, but I'll ask now, is when when the new policies come over, if they could possibly be in the, with highlighted changes, so that when we're reading through the policy, and I read through 10 of them last night, which wasn't fun, and looking for changes that you can't see them because you'd have to compare old and new, and that's just above my pay grade. Actually, I could do it, but I'm not going to.
No, but we don't, when we send
I
it
know.
out, they don't know.
So if it's possible, to, highlight them, whatever, bold them, so that when you're quickly reading through a policy, you can see, oh, this is the word that was changed, that's great. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna do this right now. What we'll do is, and we can provide this information for the write-up. Policy says no change, no change, no change, no change, and then identify, policies that are changed and what's changed. Do you know what I mean? So there's a whole bunch that's gonna be not changed, so that we can get to them, or to those putting out the minutes.
That'd be very helpful.
Don't we put that in our policy minutes?
We do put it in the policy
Committee
minutes.
meeting minutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot to read, and I think sometimes questions come up because people can't keep up with reading everything that's sent out. And, the board agenda shouldn't really be a surprise because you've had a meeting agenda. Following the meeting agenda, you've had minutes from the meeting. You have weekly updates identifying things that are going to be put in the agenda. And in the case of this week, on Friday, I interviewed somebody at 10 a.m. On Thursday, we had someone who accepted a position in another district that we had to pull from an agenda. Dan can speak to the financials and the importance of keeping the bills timely. We constantly have a working document for the agenda, and it's shared with the board president and the board vice president before it goes to the whole board for a set of eyes Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Providing access to other members of the board at the same time, if that's the will of the board, is certainly something that we could do. However, it's not going to change the workload any because the nature of the work is that it takes until the last minute to finalize the agenda. When the board elects to make the board meeting on Monday, which we have done here, it's always going to be a couple of days before, a business day before, maybe 2 days before, and that means that the work comes over the weekend. The timeline wouldn't be any less crunched, except for many people, they'd also be working full-time, if it was on a Thursday and you got it on a Wednesday morning.
I wasn't asking for Wednesday. If it could come Thursday instead of Friday afternoon.
I'm just telling you what the limitations are. So whatever the board directs is what we can do, but it's exactly as you described. You're going to be reading things you've already read, and you're still going to have to wait for the final personnel decisions until the end.
But there are also documents that we get in the agenda that we don't get to see the completed document until we get the agenda.
So I'm going to
For
have Dan
example,
speak.
policy.
Yeah, I'm going to have Dan, well, you do.
No, what we got from the policy committee, no slight, but here are the policies that we've looked at, and we're gonna change that was the pronouns from he, she, or she, he, to there. And that was okay, that made sense. But there were other policies, we made changes. Your answer to that is gonna be great, but I'd rather read it Thursday night than try and read it on Friday night when I'd rather go to the movies.
Right, well, Dan can speak to the attachments that come from the finance side.
And even if it's preliminary and the final is Friday afternoon, we've at least had a chance to start to read into it. Because I take this seriously and I try and read as much as I can. Some people say, oh, you're asking too many questions.
But
Well,
you're not, but the questions you asked on the Code of Governance were answered a couple of months ago
which questions?
about the capital letter versus the lowercase letter and the format. So sometimes you get answers to questions, but then the questions come up again anyway, which is what we're dealing with now.
Dan, did you have a response in
I
terms of the
think,
finances?
from my experience, we've done this a couple of times in our career, and what we wind up doing with a Wednesday agenda is then I have another agenda from Thursday to Monday at 6 o'clock. Has another 8 or 10 motions on it, which it just makes it a little more cumbersome. Mistakes are a little tougher. To try to keep everything in one document is easier. But as Dr. Mucci has stated, I mean, if to give access on the Wednesday and Thursday when the president and the vice president approve, that's pretty easy. You know, the backup, all the backup is tied to a number that we put down, so nothing's numbered on that Wednesday and Thursday. So it would be, just a bunch of papers that wouldn't really tie into a motion. So, there have to be some modification on our side to try to do something like that.
Right.
If I could, is the real issue is when we have a lot of attachments and there's a lot of reading? Okay, so it's the attachment. So, obviously we could, it was 11 policies or something. I mean, policy, we can work that. I mean, with that's easy to work. The Code of Governance went out early. You said Wednesday, but I gotta be honest with you, Tom. I mean, it's like,
2 months
it's
ago.
not a big deal.
Oh, yes, and I
And we
responded
went-
2 months ago and a month ago, or whatever it was.
But,
I responded at least
I
twice
mean, it's
with
not-
changes.
Okay, well, I like I said, I only got 2 comments from you, and they were handled in the Code of Governance. I worked with Ann Butler on the wording for it, so I know those are in here. But, so then if you're looking at the agenda, maybe the thing with, like, big numbers, obviously, is the finance, but all the other things are, there's no backup data, you're reading the resolution, so if you have a question on the resolution, I guess you could ask Ann, or, it's not such a big thing, I don't think. I have to be honest, I never remember anything but ever getting the agendas on a Friday. I mean, always. And, I'm the, oldster here. So I'm telling you, it's always Fridays. Probably, I never knew the back, probably for that reason, because constant changes.
Alex?
If I may offer an alternative perspective on it, I don't want multiple series of draft documents. There's too much to read, and I don't have time during the week to read it anyway. So wait until it's final, send it to us on Friday. I'll manage in the next 60 hours to read whatever I need to before the meeting. And, this is a board. It's not, about one individual. I know that we're trying to be as accommodating as possible, but I've been on the other side of it in the administration. There are always last minute changes. I don't want to see multiple things in draft form. Do it as, I don't think there's any reason for changing what is working very well in a well-established process.
I take umbrage with you thinking I'm asking for this just for myself.
No, it's not just for yourself, but.
Well, you just said one person. It's not just for me, it's for everybody. Read it when you can.
If I can offer another
Yeah.
perspective, so most of the attachments that I think, Tom, you're referring to are the policies.
That's the bulk of
And,
the reading.
and I acknowledge in the last year, we've overhauled or updated a significant amount of policies to kind of catch up. We've gotten confused ourselves when we've tried to send the red line and the clean, because there's so many that you're talking to. So what I think you're better off considering is talk to the policy committee. find someone, whether it's me, whether it's Danielle, whether it's Karen, and say, hey, I saw all these policies on the agenda. Which ones are the ones that are really substantive that you guys made substantive changes to? And it's really usually only maybe 1 or 2 out of the 10, maybe, that you should probably be focusing your efforts on. And part of the complication is that we sometimes, as a committee, decide at the last minute, you know what, table this policy, give it to the administration, let them have it for a little bit longer, so then it would be too premature to even give that to everyone on the board. And the policy committee understands we're supposed to be making all of your lives easier and for you to trust us to constantly go through the long process that we're going through. So I think I would be happy to reach out to you, because if I know that you're this in tune with the policies and that you really want to read it word for word, I will be happy to send to you and say, Tom, just so you know, this is on the agenda. There's 10 of them. These are the only 2 that maybe you should focus on, because the rest was just grammatical or changing a word here or there, or the updates.
And Karen had offered that in the write-up from the policy committee, which would be very helpful, very helpful.
I think that's a good idea.
I think for anybody who wants to take a look, and I'm sure that all the rest of you read everything, but
Yeah.
it would be nice to space it out a little bit more. If it doesn't work for the rest of you, I'm going to be outvoted, so it doesn't matter.
Well, the reason we're not spacing it out as well.
I'm asking for a day earlier, that's all.
Yeah, oh, no, I know, but the reason why we're throwing so many policies at once is because the policies have to be reviewed and revoted on every 3 years. And with COVID, we became so entrenched in new policies and everything for COVID that frankly, we kind of fell behind on making sure we did the almost mundane task in a way of making sure that for a lot of them there were no new updates. But I think it is a great idea, and rather than putting it on the admin team to have so many moving parts to get it earlier to you, I think you're better off putting it on the policy committee to, in our minutes, just pointing out which policies had the substantive changes. And that would allow you, so that you know when you're getting the policy, when you're getting the agenda, you know what, don't review all 10. They were the ones that were already there that have been reviewed over and over again. Just review these 2 or this 1.
So I think I'd just refer this to the governance committee to just assess maybe where, because it sounds like it's a committee issue and not an administrative issue, honestly. So we'll maybe assess and think about ways that we can aggregate and provide information earlier for board meetings for all board members. So I think that that's a good solution to this request.
I mean,
Great, thank you.
just looking at this meeting, it's about 142 pages. 70 are policy, 21 are minutes from the old meeting, 30 are financials, so that leaves 21 other sheets of paper for agenda type items. So the problem is this, it was a heavy policy.
This was a,
Yes.
Yeah.
all right,
Yes.
now, all I'm gonna say is this.
It's all your
'cause
fault,
this is-
Karen.
That's right.
It's good this came up.
all Karen's fault.
Now,
Well, the
we're-
policy committee is getting so much work done,
No
it's our
soup for you.
fault.
And we'll work it out. We're up to the
That's why she's
7,000
bringing the nuts.
and finishing the 9,000, and then we're done.
Yeah.
And I think.
Except if an update comes, we will be done. And with her spreadsheet, we're going to be smooth sailing all the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
This is a heavy year. Plus, we started doing the first and the second readings. So you're seeing the same policies on 2
Yeah.
separate agendas too. So it looks like it's more than it is. But we're really done after this, and it'll just be, but I'd be happy to provide you with the substantive changes that we made.
But we also made the effort in the policies to separate them out with clues as to which ones are which. So we were very deliberate in the language that the committee chose, and I think you were a part of that conversation when you were on policy. That when it says reviewed and readopted, that means there's no changes. So for example, on tonight's agenda, when you look at the following policies have been reviewed, 45, if you take into account all the numbers that Dan just mentioned in terms of numbers of pages, everything in number 4, of those 9,000 motions, there's nothing that the board needs to consider that there were changes made there. So when we design the agenda, we immediately draw your attention to the policies that have been changed. And when a policy is changed significantly, you also receive an additional notification about that, not just in the minutes, but in the CSO, where I would say, this was a particular policy where there has been a great deal of changes. So when you take into account all of those pages, nothing on 45 requires a discernment of a voting issue. Assuming you accepted the policy the way that it was, all we're doing is going through the 3-year cycle and there's no substantive change. So I actually like the way the board does the motions because it does divide it out that way. And the other solution is, since every policy, which you have taken advantage of in the past, and as you know, has 2 readings,
Right.
if you miss reading it, it's not like you only get 1 shot at the apple.
get
There's
2
2
months.
meetings or 2 months to break up the policy if you need longer to read them.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business? No? Any comments from the public? Matt, will you move us into executive session, please?
Yes. The board shall enter executive session for the purpose of discussing a confidential student discipline matter and the superintendent's contract.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Let's get.
I have,
Oh, we're
sorry.
taking these.
I didn't, it was like,
You want to
Nobody's
cannoli?
signing them?
people were talking, and I was like, I can't be passing
Oh,
this down.
extras, got it.
We
I've
love
got
you,
thicker
Tom.
skin than that.